On one hand, I've as I've gotten older, I've become more and more aware that the shit I grew up with, the Nintendo games I grew up playing, are by far the best in the industry. Right, like the Ocarina of Times, the Paper Mario's, the Super Mario 64s. Like those games were phenomenal, were and still are phenomenal. Like some of the best games ever made, and PlayStation and Xbox have never been able to compete. But on the flip side, I've things I really there are other things from other consoles. There are other games that I grew up really loving that I just fell out of loving as I've gotten older. I've talked about this a little bit with games like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and things like that. But I think the big one for me, like legit, one of my all-time favorite games at one point that has just completely lost all appeal for me. It's Kingdom Hearts 2. Like as I've gotten older, I cannot stand Kingdom Hearts 2 or any of the other sequels. I still love the original a lot, but Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically is just not very good. Like I cannot stand Kingdom Hearts 2. Like I still there are certain there are still certain aspects of it I like, right? Like I still like the tutorial and some of the music. Like of course the music in this series I would say is generally like amazing, but there are still things I like about it, but like as a whole, I think as an adult, like I've grown to really dislike this game. I've tried playing through it a couple of times in the past decade, 2013, and I think 5 years later in 2018, 2019. Both times I couldn't finish it. Like both times, I found both playthroughs to be a complete slog, complete boring, uninspired, like just repetitive, droning, just pointless experiences. Like this is an IP that absolutely dropped the ball. Like I would say arguably like Chain of Memories, but by Kingdom Hearts 2, which was supposed to be the real sequel, like I really do think like the Kingdom Heartsisms started to show themselves, like the casualization of the gameplay, the complete ruination of these characters, stories, settings, general premise, right? Like, remember in the original Kingdom Hearts, when like the Disney and Final Fantasy characters actually had a role in the plot, they actually had a purpose, they actually had a function. Like, you can argue that like Kingdom Hearts is kind of dumb, right? The original is kind of dumb, but like, it's not the kind of dumb that it turned into with the later entries, right? Like, it's its own kind of lighthearted, sort of energetic, like childlike wonder. Like it's sort of like comparing a an original Disney movie, right? Like an animated classic, right? Lion King with like all of its sequels and spin-offs, like The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, Lion King 1.5, The Lion Guard. Like how many people do you even know that even are even aware, hardcore fans of the Lion King, who even know that the Lion Guard is a thing? Where like, I think it's like Simba's grandson, or like maybe it's like some alternate reality where Simba had a son rather than a daughter. I don't even know, fucking know. But how many people are aware that this show exists and that this lion, the next in line for the throne, is going around like getting Skype calls from Mufasa in the sky. Like you know how in like the original movie, like Mufasa appears to Simba in the sky to like give him like a stern talking to about like running away from his responsibility and his role as king, basically. Well, in the Lion Guard, you have like Mufasa doing that for like everyday problems. Like this kid like gets into a fight with his friends and he goes to, and like Mufasa appears and he just has this like Skype conversation about how he doesn't know how to deal with this problem. Like, what the fuck, Mufasa? You wouldn't do that for Simba, but you'll do this for this other kid. Like again, it's kind of this it's the same kind of idea, is that you have people who aren't as talented as the original creators. People who don't know how to keep the story going in a meaningful, compelling way, like being forced to work on these properties, right? Being forced to keep padding things out in really ridiculous ways that don't make a whole lot of sense. Like in Kingdom Hearts, you're always fighting new enemies. Like your Organization 13 is always returning when they should never have existed to begin with. You're always seeing these. You're always seeing these things that happen. Like Kingdom Hearts is frustratingly repetitive. Like everyone always says that Kingdom Hearts 3 has like some good character moments. Like Woody actually gives a stern talking to Xemnas. You have like Sully throwing people through doors. Like you always see people like point out specific moments that are kind of amusing, but like in the end, it doesn't really matter. Like I'm fond of like the waifu mechanics in the Tangled world, like fucking Rapunzel. But I as a whole, like Kingdom Hearts like has never really. I don't get how popular. Okay, I don't get this. Like I don't get how these games are so popular. Like I don't get how they're so beloved and they don't seem to have a budget. Like I don't get how the games feel like so so stiff and unresponsive in a lot of ways. Like they don't feel like a really fleshed out action game. You know what I mean? There's something weird about the way like they handle and the way the levels are designed. It's just the way the combat works in 3. Like it's just what are they doing? Like what did they do? And it's not just like a new thing. It's not just Birth by Sleep. It's not just 358 Days. It's not just 3Ds. It's not just Kingdom Hearts 3. It started with 2. Like 2 is the one where I feel like they really dropped the ball when it comes to like what makes this franchise appealing to people. And I think like a lot of people were either too young or love the original too much to really acknowledge this. But 2 was a disappointment. Like it didn't really build up on the original at all. Like it didn't add in a lot of new interesting worlds. Like you had like a bunch of summons from the original got their own worlds basically. Like whatever Fault 3 has, I think it's safe to say it has better worlds than 2. Like 2 just stripped away everything I liked about 1, like the magic system, like characters. You know, Kairi from the original is probably one of my all-time favorite love interests in a game, right? For a protagonist, right? Like Sora and her have this great thing going, right? Like it really does like capture this feeling of like young first love, right? Amazing. Like, sure, people like me will like speculate that, like, you know, maybe Sora could get with one of these Disney princesses, Rapunzel. People like me will say that, but like, you know, Sora and Kairi work, right? They're perfectly functional. They're perfectly compatible. If like they didn't spend half these games like fucking like nowhere around each other, like it would work, right? But like they've completely dropped the ball. Like there was no reason for Kairi to not be involved in the plot of 2. There was no reason for Riku to like go through this ridiculous Riku. Like again, this is another problem. Like Riku and Sora are basically, especially Riku, I would say. Sora just got more annoying. Riku and Sora are basically completely different characters than how they started. Like Sora went from like this Final Fantasy Disney crossover character, right? This, you know, great design, great personality, great outlook on life, to this very engaging original protagonist, to being a generic shonen character that's overtly happy all the time, completely fucking obnoxious and annoying. While Riku went from like this jealous, self-serving cunt, right? Your former friend, your stereotypically like former friend anime character, to being like, oh yeah, we're totally truly friends. Like completely forget about the fact that I dropped your ass for no real reason, right? Like ignore that. I'm a good guy now. Like it's awful. Like the Riku thing. Riku's character is not all that interesting. As especially, I think Riku's like probably the most blatant example of just how uninteresting how poorly handled this cast has been handled over the years. Like, there was no redemption. There was no like working to make things right. Like Riku just sort of was like, "Oh yeah, I'm good now." Like I was totally possessed the entire time. This isn't actually this wasn't actually my doing. Like this all the stuff I did, yeah, forget that. Like I totally could have gone with you when we first met up in Traverse Town, but no. Like I chose to believe Maleficent, like for a really stupid reason. Like it's just I don't know, man. Like, like Riku could have been a great character, but no, like completely dropped the ball. Like he was a great character. Like Ansem was a great antagonist, but here's the thing about Ansem. His plot line ended in the first game. They tried to retcon it. They tried to say like in two, right? Again, two again. Ansem. Oh, this isn't the real Ansem, which is complete crap. But stupid ass retcons left and right. Stupid ass justifications for things. Terrible uses for characters, right? Like, how Cloud and Sephiroth exist. Somehow, like, is Genova somewhere, like, buried under Hollow Bastion? Like, why is Aeris still alive? Like, why is Tifa, like, not in the first game? Like, how does the Shinra Corporation fit into all this? Like, nothing about, like, the continuity of this makes any sense at all. Like, where's Renoa? Like, where are the Final Fantasy IX characters? Other than Vivi? Like, Vivi is, like, fucking Vivi. Like, ugh. Again, there's, like, all these weird questions. Like, where are the Final Fantasy characters in general in Kingdom Hearts 3? Like, really? Like, I don't understand. Why aren't they using them more? Like, if anything, like they've been using them less and less. Like I don't think they were prevalent at all in 358 days. Like it's almost like the Final Fantasy aspects don't matter anymore, or the Disney aspects have been mattering less and less as the years go on in favor of this Organization 13 plot. But with the Final Fantasy aspects, they never did anything interesting with them at all. Like, to the point where, like, why do they even bother? Like, this could have been a great opportunity. This was a great opportunity to introduce kids, younger players, to people who, the characters and games that they may not have heard of. Like, introducing characters to, like, classics like Final Fantasy 5, 6, 9, like, 10 to an extent. No, like, oh, yeah, let's not pay homage to 10, which is the one people actually like. Let's have the 10-2 characters in there. Let's have the Gull Wings in there, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's have, like, Titus be living with Sora and Waka on Destiny Islands and have Yuna be a fairy. Like, what? Yuna and the Gull Wings be fairies somewhere. Like, what sense does that make? What sense does that make at all? It's just, it's ridiculous. It's just awful. And of course the game isn't fun to play. Like this really needs to be said. This is probably the most important point. Like the thing I adamantly have against Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is not a very fun video game. Like it's basic ass shit. It's just mash X to win. Like that's Kingdom Hearts 2. Like it has no semblance of skill or customability. Like you have no there's no real sense of progression. Like you don't learn none of your magic is all that useful. like the bosses are boring. Like there's no interesting stage mechanics. Like Kingdom Hearts 2 is just not all that fun to play, and like there's no reason to stay invested because the story is so awful. So it's like, wow, how did they drop the ball so hard? How did they fuck it up this badly? It's rather remarkable, and again, it just goes to show you just how toxic PlayStation has been on the Square Enix company, because how far they've fallen since 2002, since they stopped being Squaresoft and became Square Enix. Like ever since they started doing this PlayStation exclusive shit, they've been getting worse and worse. I really can't emphasize this enough. PlayStation has been toxic to the Final Fantasy brand. Like they just haven't been able to make anything good since they stopped developing Nintendo consoles. So stopped developing for Nintendo consoles. So here's what they need to do. Like first of all, they need to like stop. Okay, so how do you fix it? At this point, like I don't think Kingdom Hearts can be fixed. Like I think the best thing they can do is just reboot the entire thing, like remake the original, maybe with like some different worlds. Um, a straight up reboot. Like, don't continue the storyline. It's garbage. Like, straight up reboot. Like, reuse these worlds, make them interesting this time. There aren't any new good Disney films to exploit. You know what I mean? Like Tangled, Toy Story. Like you had a couple of ones you didn't use in the earlier games, right? Toy Story was probably the big one. You had a couple of ones you didn't use, but like now you have nothing. Like what are you gonna do? Like use Pixar is getting worse. Disney animated films are getting worse. Like the sequels are getting worse. Like what are you gonna do? Like really? I'm not at all impressed with what they've been doing with this series. So like my opinion on it, do a straight up reboot, make it Nintendo Switch exclusive. Like that's the only way you're gonna be able to save this thing, and it's perfectly salvageable. Like Kingdom Hearts is one of those things that got it right the first time. Like here's what you need to do: like get rid of the nobodies; they don't exist. Heartless are the only enemies, right? That's all it is. Like the corruption of these Disney worlds. Like the Heartless are fundamentally the core antagonist of the series. Like stop with adding on more and more bullshit that doesn't make any sense. Like forget things like am I the only one that thinks the Keyblade was more interesting when we didn't know anything about it? Like when it was completely shrouded in mystery. Like the Keyblade is a completely mysterious object. Like, it fights the Heartless. That's it. Like, you don't know anything about it. It just sort of appears to certain people. Whatever. Like, that's the Keyblade. Again, nobodies don't exist. Organization 13 don't exist. Final Fantasy characters have a expanded role in the plot. Disney characters have more role in the plot. The levels need to be improved. The combat needs to be improved. Well, the combat needs to be unchanged in general. Like, the general, like, format is fine. Like, again, like, Kingdom Hearts... This is one of the reasons I'm so opposed, like, Final Fantasy becoming more action-oriented. You have Kingdom Hearts for that. Like, don't make Final Fantasy more like Kingdom Hearts. Like, make Kingdom Hearts better. Like, I don't understand why they shafted, like, the turn-based combat of Final Fantasy for action gameplay when like just have Kingdom Hearts be better. Like anyway, so Kingdom Hearts action-based gameplay. Like it needs to be better. Obviously, it needs to have like more weight to it. It needs to be like maybe like again you have to make the combat good. You have to make the enemies have good AI. You have to make the environments interesting to explore and fight in. There's a lot that needs to be done in order to save this franchise. And unlike a lot of franchises, Doom, The Elder Scrolls, Grand Theft Auto, I think it's perfectly possible to salvage Kingdom Hearts, but they're going to have to put in a lot of work. And I do not have any faith in modern Square Enix to put in the effort to make that happen.